This episode is brought to you by Amazon Ads. Every good storyteller knows there is no story without an audience. Amazon Ads can help tell your brand story to audiences who are leaned in and ready to hear what you have to say. All on Freevee, Twitch, Amazon Music, Thursday Night Football, exclusively on Prime Video and more. Learn more at advertising.amazon.com.
Blue Wire.
First pick in the 1991 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Larry Johnson from University.
I'm not supposed to be here, man. A lot of people from where I'm from, don't make it.
Charlotte, we're back.
We left a little bit of meat on the bone here, but I think that's okay because like the main things and the most relevant, important, immediate things were to talk about Victor and we're to talk about kind of our new observations on Scoot in this new role. I think later in the season, we can talk about some of these other G League Ignite prospects because there are a couple on this team. We hit like very briefly on Mojave King and Leonard Miller. I also think we'll have time probably in our more Hornet-centric podcast to talk about kind of what these two prospects mean and whether it can or should kind of affect Kupchak and the organization's decision-making about this season. I think we'll have time to cover that as the season unfolds on the Hornets podcast. The one thing I wanted to throw at you, Brian, before we get out here, and this is just complete like niche basketball fun. Who was your favorite, like, kind of throwback NCAA name in this game? Because there were a couple on both teams.
Man, there were some good ones, including, like, recent, like, Aaron Henry is a guy that I loved across multiple draft cycles.
He was good, too.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty damn good. So that one was fun. I mean, like, John Jenkins was solid for G League Ignite. Getting to see Tremont Waters play basketball is always a joy,
a treat.
So I'll say Henry feels like also Eric Mika and like him at times having to like go against Victor was like, don't worry, buddy, it'll get easier for you. Like it's not fair. They've asked you to. I mean, he and Leonard Miller just like getting thrown to the wolves, having to like hang with that guy. Is pretty tough. So I'll go with Henry, though that feels like a bit of it's like too recent, I think, honestly.
No, that's a good one. And Waters and Jenkins, my personal favorite, and I'm glad you left this one for me, was Aubrey Dawkins.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
Completely forgot about him, but like I mean, people, of course, will remember, and Brian, you will very intimately remember the Taco Fall Zion Williams game in the NCAA tournament.
Incredible.
But Aubrey Dawkins was awesome in that game.
Yeah.
And of course, is Johnny Dawkins' son, and played really well too. I'm excited to watch him a little bit on this G League Ignite team.
I think he should get he's deserving of like a roster spot, or at least
I agree
because of his size and his shooting. I think I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him getting, minutes in some regard for an NBA team at some point soon, perhaps this season. There was a cup of coffee for James Sutherland in the first game,
there you go.
which was another good one. So I think I've gotten in some of I guess maybe Marcus Graves too. There were some solid names.
Man.
I do very, very quickly, and I know we need to get out of here, but because Richie and I touched on this very briefly, I would like to, do you have a couple of minutes to talk?
Yeah.
Just real quick, like we'll keep it brief here, but do you think what happened this week changes what the Hornets do at all this season? And I mean, the fact that I know it's just preseason, but those two games being bordered by the Hornets looking pretty terrible in preseason. Where are you in terms of that? It's impossible to sort of like read the room from the outside, but do you think it has an impact on them as they go into the season? Do you think it should? I think there's one obvious answer to these questions, but where are you in terms of that?
Yeah.
Projecting the Hornets?
I mean, it's tough, man, because I've kind of tried to stay a little more level-headed through this summer. and tried to have the opinion of like, look, at the end of the day, the roster is very similar to what it was last year. Ideally, our young players are improving, and now I'm starting to think that might have been a bit naive. Like I think obviously the Miles Bridges situation sucks for a million different levels, but just like from a pure basketball standpoint, I mean, he was clearly and by far the second best player on this team, and he's just gone. And that, along with some of the stuff we've seen in the preseason, I think, and this is not breaking news and is no secret to anyone who listens to this pod, but like, I think Jordan will be kicking and screaming all the way to what the right decision should be. Like, there's no question in my mind at this point that the Hornets should be trying to reset around the young core. My base case is they won't do it. Like, all the history tells us this team is more likely to trade for like Mike Conley than they are to trade away Rozier and Hayward and like continue to try and push for the 9th and 10th seed. So like, my medium base case is they will not do what I wish they would do. But I mean, look, I think we've all kind of thought they should do this even prior to what we just saw. And what we just saw is just further evidence that they should be trying to put their name in this sweepstakes for either one of these guys. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that could change that is, like, what if this team starts like 4-18 or something? You know, I mean, what if they're just horrific out of the gates, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, maybe we should move on from a couple of these veterans, but it almost feels like it's like too little too late, maybe too, at a certain point. So that's how I feel about it, man.
Champions aren't born, they're made. And the secret to make your business reign supreme, Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Forget the off-season work. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling warm-ups or wall hangers, it's time to start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that create die-hard fans. Shopify fields all the sales channels to grow a winning business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Shopify is the secret to becoming a business champion by making it simple for anyone to sell their products anywhere, taking the guesswork out of selling. When you're ready to take your winning idea to the world, team up with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/bluewire, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/bluewire to start selling online today. Shopify.com/bluewire.
What do the federal funds rate and the price of a barrel of oil have to do with you being able to buy a house this year? How do corporate earnings reports affect your next vacation, do you suppose? I'm Kai Risdall. At Marketplace, we untangle economic news and give you context you can actually use, because the more you know about the financial world, the better you can plan for what's happening in your own world. Listen to Marketplace wherever you get your podcasts.
So it's interesting because I tend to mirror your thoughts. And look, I've been saying, I think all of us have been saying on this pod that, like, for months now, since the Bridges thing really threw everything sideways for them.
That changed everything. Like, with him, I'm still up, and obviously there's a whole nother angle to this, but just we're talking only basketball. Like, with Bridges, I don't think there's any reason why this team wouldn't win 40, 41, 42 games again.
For sure. And it's one of those things where, like, I went on Nate Duncan's pod to fill in for Spencer on the Hornets preview earlier this week. And we did win projections at the end of it. And I took the under on the Hornets, and I threw out some number in the low 30s. And I mean, a number that I think they're going to need to get below if they really want to, like, be in contention, really, like, improve their odds to go after these guys. And it was a big difference. It was like, an 8-9 win difference from what they ended up with last season. And Nate asked me, he was like, "Oh, do you think Miles Bridges is like, an 8-9 win player?" And it was like, it's like not in terms of win shares. Do you know what I mean? Like, definitely not. But it's when you talk about the floor,
this specific context, this specific roster,
and what he was for them offensively as a floor raiser, because of his ability to be like their far and away their best pressure point on the rim.
Totally.
Like, Steve Clifford can talk all he wants about how good Charlotte's rim numbers looked last season. It's like, yeah, they were 6th in the NBA in percentage of field goal attempts at the rim. That's great. And they took a lot of corner threes. That's also great. A lot of that stuff gets generated off of the rim pressure, and then you kick out to those open shooters. You're missing the most important piece in terms of creating that. And I know, like, obviously LaMelo does so much for this team from a creation standpoint, but like he's incredible, but like where he is limited is going to be maybe a little bit further exposed this season. Without Bridges and with like more of an ask on him. So I think like one of the potential saving graces for this team, and I said this to Richie, is like, it may not matter. Like, they may be trying to gun for the 10th seed, but like it may not be enough. And they're so thin that like if Hayward is actually going to like miss time in the regular season, which what we're being told now, at least, is that if it was the regular season, he'd be playing. But like if we're already there, like we're recording this October 8th, man. Like if we're there already, just like they can't afford. And if LaMelo missed 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if Terry Rozier missed some time.
So that's the other thing. Like obviously knocking on all the wood, God forbid, I want LaMelo to play 82 games this season because I love him and he needs the development. But if LaMelo were to go down for any significant portion of time, they might be the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah, seriously. It's starting to look more and more like that, especially as you're looking out to see all of a sudden Orlando and Houston, they have these just incredible, and I know like in Oklahoma City, they have these incredible collections of like young players as they've just, even within Oklahoma City's maybe taken a more like holistic approach, but
Utah and San Antonio look kind of smart right now, don't they?
Absolutely. And San Antonio just hauled in a great draft class this past season, one that I know you and I liked a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Wesley, Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, and now they're going to have a great chance to go get Victor or Scoot. And they've still got guys like Devin Vassell on the roster. They can probably trade off Keldon Johnson at some point if they want to. Like they're in a very nice spot in terms of like where their rebuild is at, assuming good luck with the lottery. Exactly for them. I think the other hopes for Charlotte might be, and to be clear, like I think when you're doing a rebuild, I like the Oklahoma City approach or the Orlando like multi-yeared approach, right? Where it's like, no, we're going to bring in a head coach to develop. Yep. We're going to stockpile picks. We are going to focus on development, and like we're not going to be rushed, right? Like we're really going to like wait until we get like the bona fide the guy, because like if Charlotte had a guy like SGA, I guess they kind of do have this with LaMelo. Like they would just be like, all right, let's do it. Let's build a team around this person,
Right.
Like Oklahoma City is saying like, no. Like we're gonna wait. We're gonna get some guys in here. And we're gonna take our time until we get like another one of these guys that's on a rookie deal. But I think so they have a patience that I'm not sure is in the appetite of Charlotte's either front office or the ownership, and maybe at this point now the coaching staff. But I think the hope would be that someone in that front office could go to ownership and say, we don't have to do this for 2 to 3 years. Let's do this for one season. We suck. Like we're bad. And here are some YouTube highlights of Scoot Henderson, or of Victor.
Just watch that first game. And then first game.
And that's where I actually think like with the events of this past week maybe do change some eyes. Like a lot of the reporting out of Vegas or around those games seem to be like, wow, like the teams are getting ready. They're going to line up to tank for these guys, And it did seem like, I think Zach Lowe mentioned this, that maybe that some of those murmurs were posturing from like teams that are in contention now that want a team like Utah to trade off guys like, Conley or Clarkson or whomever, so they can move those guys for less in return and continue their tank to the bottom. But I think the hope is that you go to MJ and say, look, you go to ownership and you say, look, this is gonna be kind of bothersome. We're gonna be really, really bad for 5 months. But like, if we can move Gordon, we got to do it. If we can move Terry somehow, we got to do it. Plumlee, Oubre, we got to do it. Let's develop what we have in here. And let's go get one of these guys. Let's go get Amen Thompson. Let's go get Victor Wembanyama. Let's go get Scoot Henderson. Let's try. And so that would be the hope, I think, right? Is that you could sell it on, by this time next year, we're not doing this still. Now, I don't think that's like in terms of like best practices, like that's the right approach, but it is one that could actually still work out for you. The other thing, and this is where you need at least one other person in the front office, or on the, maybe even on like the business side of the front office, to say, look, we know you want to sell some tickets. We know you'd like to try to get into the playoffs. It's been a long time, and you'd like to get to the play-in and get to the playoffs, and we get to have a couple extra games, and we're going to make a couple extra $1 million, right? Just like on the gates for doing that. But, and this is something that I got the wheels of my brain started turning, because I heard Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons talking about this on the Low Post. Why couldn't you go to ownership and say, hey, we just ran some numbers here. This is what the added value to a franchise of 5 years of Victor Wembanyama looks like.
That's right.
This is what 10 years,
which dwarfs those gate receipts.
Yes, exactly.
By the way.
Yeah, like all of a sudden the $2 to $5 million that you get from getting to host 2 playoff games and getting blasted by like the Bucks or whatever is a drop in the bucket compared to like the maybe $1 billion this guy adds to the value of the franchise. And so, which again, this is why, like, man, what a racket it is to own an NBA team, like a salary capped league where the governors can with the stroke, the luck of a couple of ping pong balls can add, indirectly another, billion, $500 million to their empire or whatever. But that would be the other hope, is that you could say, like, look, like you're a great businessman or whatever.
Like look at the numbers.
Look at, you understand
Run
investments,
the numbers.
right? Exactly. So like financially, one of these things makes more sense. Yes, I get that it's like you want to be able to keep the lights on or whatever, and keep the wheels spinning. You want as much fresh infusions of cash coming in as quickly as possible. However, like a little bit of patience would go a long way. So I think those would possibly be like 2 of the saving graces, which would be that like this team just ain't that good to begin with. They're very, very thin. And then also like if you can sell sort of like the long-term or intermediate term financial boon that comes with having one of these guys on your roster, that might be enough to sort of like get from the top down the strategy, everyone to be rowing in the same direction, at least for the span of a couple of months. So those would be the 2 things I would say. We talked a lot on the last pod with Scoot about the fit with LaMelo. Go back and listen to that. I think it would be a great fit. I think in part because I think Scoot is the guy that can be a floor raiser for you, and LaMelo is a floor raiser in his own right too, but is also like maybe the ultimate ceiling raiser because of his creativity, his genius level passing, the transition passing, the transition playmaking, and the fact that he is at this point in his career an elite off-ball shooter. 43% on catch and shoot threes last season at 4.5 attempts per game and around 1.2 points per possession on spot ups. So like he is absolutely ready and willing to be a part of an offense where there's another person, whether it's Thompson or Scoot, that's playing more of a perimeter slasher on ball role, in LaMelo getting to sort of like float between, I'm running pick and roll this possession. Now on this possession, I'm relocating for a 3. Like just LaMelo is super scalable, I think, because his off-ball game and the shooting is so good. So
he's a universal blood type.
Yeah,
like,
he really
that's kind of, it's like there's the Halliburton vibes. Like you can do both.
Super Halliburton vibes, though. You know, like
exactly on steroids,
5.5 or whatever. So and that's no slight. Like Tyrese Halliburton's awesome, but LaMelo I just think has like the guy just turned 21. He's already
he's a different creator for sure.
So,
no doubt.
All right. There's probably some stuff we left on the table.
Yeah, no, I'm actually glad we took a few minutes. I know it made the podcast a bit longer. We appreciate you if you're still hanging with us. I think, like, obviously this will be kind of a running theme for us throughout the year, talking about what direction the Hornets should or are going. But I think we both probably just realized we did have a little bit to get off our chest there, so I'm glad we did it. But yeah, look, me and Brian are going to continue to kind of sprinkle in these prospect NBA draft kind of macro thought pods throughout the year. But obviously, starting soon, we'll be back to kind of our more regularly scheduled regular season content schedule. So really appreciate our audience and listenership out there. For Lee and Brian, we're signing off. Do not forget Buzzbeat Plus. Get the podcast early. Get bonus episodes, extra content, all that great stuff. We will be back soon with Hornets coverage. Go Hornets.